This is one of those nights where you can feel that something is moving for real inside Hollis Hall, even if no one comes out to say it on the record. It's not noise, it's not clickbait, it's that mix of urgency, opportunity, and belief that only shows up when a front office looks at the standings, looks at its locker room, looks at its pass rush numbers and says, we're too close to back off now. And I want you with me dentro desiccant versa, because here on Bears News Fan Report, my commitment is simple. I dig into what's actually being discussed around the league. I cross it with what I'm hearing. I put it next to the tape, the contracts, and the tendencies of this regime. And I translate all that in a way every Bears fan can understand, like we're talking one-on-one about the future of our team. Tonight the storyline is clear. Chicago is not treating this deadline as a formality. Chicago is hunting. And if this goes where it can go, we could be talking about a pass rush rotation that finally plays at the same level of the offense and turns this season from interesting into dangerous for the rest of the NFC. So here's what I'm going to walk you through. Why the Bears decided they can't stand pat up front. What's changed in the last couple of weeks? Which profiles actually fit what this defense is trying to become? And why 4 specific names around the league have quietly shifted from generic rumor to targeted opportunity. I'm not here to throw you a jersey swap fantasy. I'm here to map out how Chicago can weaponize this deadline. Stay with me until the end, because the picture only has sentido when you see all the pieces together. First, context. This team has done too much right to let one structural weakness cap the ceiling. The offense has stabilized. The identity is clearer. The locker room believes it can win real games in November and December. But you and I see the same thing every Sunday. There are still too many snaps where the opposing quarterback has time to scan twice. Hitch, step up and find a window that should not exist. Montez Sweat is doing his job as a foundational piece. Some young guys are flashing effort and potential. But with injuries and inconsistency, the drop-off behind the top names is evident. In modern football, especially in this conference, you don't survive like that. You finish drives on defense with pressure, hits, sacks, takeaways. You punish offensive lines that are on their third tackle. You make coordinators call scared. And right now, the Bears are one aggressive move away from putting real fear into people. That's why the phones are active. That's why insiders are connecting Chicago to front seven help. That's why I'm telling you this isn't a vague, we'll see what's out there. It's a focus search. And that search is not just about grabbing a pass rusher. It's about finding the right blend of cost, age, motor, versatility, and scheme fit to plug into a defense that wants to be faster, longer, and more multiple without blowing up the long-term plan. When you cruise all those filters, the board gets smaller, not bigger. That's where the interesting part starts. Around the league, a handful of teams are entering the classic deadline crossroad. Pay or pivot, extend or recoup picks, double down on their current core, or listen to offers for guys who are good players but not untouchable. Out of esse scenario, quattro nomes aparecem da forma recorrente nos bastidores ligados ao tipo de movimento que faria sentido para Chicago. And now, let's hit the point you've been waiting for. The cluster that matters right now for the Bears is this. Arden Key, Tavonda Sweat, Malcolm Kuntz, and Jermaine Johnson too. These aren't random mentions. They are exactly the kind of profiles that match what this front office usually targets when it decides to be bold but not reckless. Let's break what they represent. Sempre falando convoca como torcedor, que queer intender, now eso sonar. Arden Key is the prototype of the veteran chess piece. Experienced, disruptive, proven he can win from different alignments. With enough length and juice to stress tackles and enough comfort moving inside on passing downs to help your games and stunts. For the Bears, adding a guy like Key isn't about chasing a superstar. It's about finally having someone opposite Sweat that offenses have to respect on every snap, forcing protections to stay honest and making life easier for your back seven. His price tag, depending on how much salary is eaten and how his current team values their window, could be manageable compared to headline names. And that's exactly the kind of efficiency move that fits a front office that wants impact without trading away the entire future. Tavonda Sweat is a different animal altogether. That's the young, monstrous interior body type who turns 2nd and 4 into 2nd and 8 just by existing in the A-gap. With the injuries and rotation issue side, a player like Sweat would give Chicago something it has been chasing for years. a space-eating, pocket-collapsing presence who lets your edges rush with narrower angles and frees your linebackers to play downhill instead of wrestling guards all afternoon. You drop someone like that next to Sweat, Montez, and suddenly offensive lines aren't just accounting for the Bears. They're stressed. Yes, the acquisition cost here would be serious because you're buying both potential and years of control. But if the internal evaluation says he can anchor your front for the next cycle, this is the type of swing that doesn't contradict the long-term build. Malcolm Koonce fits the mold of the underappreciated disruptor, not the loudest stat sheet in the league, but real get-off, bend, and urgency, often trapped in unstable situations or miscast roles. For Chicago, Koonce would be about adding depth with upside. A rotational rusher who can push snaps, keep your main guys fresh, and still threaten on passing downs. Moves like this don't break the internet, but they win third quarters in December when legs are heavy and you need one more pressure to flip a game. Jermaine Johnson, too, is the premium upside piece in this conversation. Former first-round talent, length, explosiveness. Proven flashes as an every-down edge, but potentially caught in a numbers game or schematic shift wherever he is. A player like Johnson in Navy and Orange would not just help. He'd walk into Hollis Hall as a long-term booking candidate across from Sweat, finally giving this defense the kind of tandem that makes offensive coordinators circle the matchup in red. That's why even hearing his name in the same sentence as the Bears at this point of the year is send uma luz de aler positiva. If there's any legitimate opening there, you at least explore it AO Fim. Now, how real is all this? I'll be straight with you. As of now, there's no official agreement announced, no done deal hidden in a drawer. What there is, and isso importa, is confirmation from multiple reliable voices that Chicago is actively in the market for pass rush help, is willing to be aggressive, and is monitoring exactly this tier of player, productive enough to elevate the unit right away, young or controllable enough to justify assets, and financially encapsulates in a cap structure built to sustain, not implode. When you combine that with teams around the league that might be retooling, with players in situations where their snap counts don't match their talent or their timeline, you don't ignore that smoke. You study it, and that's what we're doing at Key. From a strategic angle, a move for any of these four would send a specific message. You go get Key, you're telling the locker room, we're serious about closing games now. We're giving Sweat and this defense real help immediately. You bring in Sweat, the tackle, you're saying nobody is going to bully our front anymore. We're building this thing from the inside out, the right way. You land Koonce, you're reinforcing depth in competition, tightening the screws without emptying the vault. You somehow pull off Jermaine Johnson too. You're planting a flag. Chicago is a destination. Chicago is ready to stack blue chip talent on defense again. Chicago is building something offenses have to fear for years, not weeks. And I'll be honest with you, if Poles and this staff manage to structure compensation that protects first-round equity and still land one of these guys, especially a long-term edge, I call that elite roster building. Of course, there's the other side. Overpaying for a name just to make a headline, shipping out key picks or young contributors without a clear role for the incoming player. That's how you create a sugar high and a hangover. That's not what this regime has sold to us, and that's not what I'm defending at Key. The line is clear. Be aggressive. Yes, because windows in the NFL close sem avisar, but be aggressive with a plan. That's why this cluster of names faz sentido. Each one tem lógica de encakes. Now e tiro no escuro. So here's my read to you. Clean and professional. Como se estivésemos sentados lado a lado. The Bears are behaving exactly like a team that believes in its core and refuses to let the lack of complementary pass rush waste a legitimate step forward. The fact that league reports link Chicago to this exact level of player, and not just the aging rental or the unplayable contract, me dixa optimista. It means there is criterio. It means if a deal comes, there's a good chance it will be the kind of move that you look back at in January and say, that was the difference between just competing and actually closing. Now I want to hear from you before this clock hits zero. Who would you prioritize out of Arden Key? Tavon Sweat, Malcolm Koonce, and Jermaine Johnson too, considering cost, fit, and timeline? Would you move a day 2 pick for a real difference maker off the edge or inside? Would you rather stack depth with a smart, lower-cost piece and keep your premium picks? Drop your take in the comments, because this community exists to pensar o futuro dos Bears com Quebeca e com pensar el mesmo tempo sem exagero barato mas sem medo de sonar grande. I'll close with a direct summary. As we stand, Chicago's push for pass rush help is real, targeted, and aligned with a long-term vision. And if one of these four names becomes a Bear under the right conditions, we're not just filling a hole. We're taking a serious step toward building the kind of defense that matches the ambition of this franchise. If you want every concrete update, every serious rumor, and every detailed breakdown como ese, make sure you're subscribed to Bears News Fan Report. Hit that like button. Share this video with that Bears fan who's living this deadline hour by hour. And stay locked in with me, because the next move in this story could define how far this team goes.